Yeah, Iowa and Florida.
Are we good? Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL First Look Strategy Show, Wild Card Weekend.
We even live?
I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
think
get
we
told
are.
these. I'm not privy to that information anymore, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Yeah, just happens. Get Matt Kajeski on here. He'll get fired up about that too. We got only 4 of these left. That's it. I mean, you got wild card, you got divisional round, championship, Super Bowl, then it's a wrap. But I was very happy to know that you,
Me.
of all people, who I've been trying to get to do this for like 3 years now, have jumped into the best ball streets. And I think it's safe to say you're hooked.
Yeah, I'm hooked on something. I nothing works over here. I'm gonna throw this computer out the window. Um, Hold on. Yes, I am hooked on best ball. It's fantastic. It's actually a lot of fun. I know a lot of people in the Stokastic community have been playing for quite a while. It's an interesting, I'm a big game theory puzzle, is something solved? I can't tell if best ball is wildly unsolved or wildly super solved. But I'm enjoying it. I've been doing some drafts, so if you see me in your draft, don't snipe me. And yeah, it's just a great weekend of sports, as Chad already pointed out.
It's a great weekend. I like regular season a little bit better.
I never
Best ball,
played.
actually, a lot better. I love regular season best ball. Um,
Can I ask, not to derail the show immediately, when you do regular season best ball, when would you say you're drafting? Like July,
I
September, early,
the
first
best
week?
year I've had was 2 years ago when I had more time to draft in the summer months, like early summer months, right? And I was grabbing Tank Dell. Like DraftKings has 20 round, Underdog has 18 rounds, right? Both of them, 12-person pods. And I'm grabbing Tank Dell in the last round, those type of guys in the 20th round. Once he had a couple preseason games, then he shot up, no joke, to like 13th, 14th round. But at the same time, you can burn yourself in that sense. So what I like to do, you got these people who, this is what I don't understand. And I'm not a best ball bro. I'm not the sharpest when it comes to this. But I'd like to think that I have some common sense. Why don't you just spread them out? That's what I try and do, right? Start early because it's not easy to draft 150 best ball teams. Start early and then just continuously draft them throughout the year leading up to kickoff, right? In week 1. That's the way I see it with playoff best ball too. Like in playoff best ball, if you were drafting teams prior to the seeds being locked, prior to knowing whether or not the Bengals or the Broncos or the Dolphins got in, there's a very good possibility that you built some absolutely dominant lineups, but also you have lineups and teams, you have teams that are just dead. They're dead before the postseason even starts. So it's the same thing. Why wouldn't you try and diversify it? We talk about diversification all the time with DFS, with betting, with portfolio EV. Why not just try and diversify?
No doubt. And that's what I've been kind of doing. Just it's another angle to get down some action on these games from I already have betting covered with OddsShopper. Obviously got DFS covered right here with Stokastic. So I'm using those to kind of blend some best ball stuff. So it is a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm a complete novice, so I've been reading some of our stuff, and I'm going at it.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I'm gonna try and see if I can get a good amount more in before Sunday or before Saturday for sure. Yeah, guillotine leagues, Lee, they're very fun. I agree. But I'll say this: there were these, you know, contrasting schools of thought on what to do in the late rounds of best ball. Some people were like, no, just draft the safe guys. With me, I would much rather just, because it made me think of it. Stephen Leibowitz said Gajewski would probably be a good resource on best ball with his college knowledge. College knowledge. I agree. But also, I don't think you need college insight and acumen as much as you need to just be able to evaluate opportunities. Like my biggest thing for best ball, Ben, in the regular season is just go into it saying this guy in the 17th round, 18th round might suck, but they also only have one receiver who's going to get decent targets on this team. Everybody else is a huge question mark. Why don't I just in the late rounds load up on some of these young rookies or just players in general who are competing on a team that doesn't have the spots sewed up like the Eagles, right? Or some of these other teams. To me, I'm more than willing to take the zeros there if it could end up being a Tank Dell situation or like a rookie Jaden Reed situation as well.
Yeah, again, you have to, it's all of these, and honestly, it ties right into whether you're playing the 2 game or the 3 game or even the 6 game. When you're in a confined like decision tree, I guess for lack of a better word, you kind of have to take some risks. You have to be willing to kind of, to live. There's a poker saying, to live, you have to be willing to die, and like you have to kind of take those shots. And it feels like best ball is a pretty good, you know, theoretically, that's the same concept there. You have to take some shots because if not, where's your angle? And it feels like that even on this slate.
Exactly. So happy to have you guys with us. Ben and I were thinking about doing an underdog draft or a few of them. We could just jump on and do like 5 of them. It would take an hour to do 5 of them. No one's probably going to watch. If you want to, that'd be great. Come jump in, grab some drafts with us over on Underdog. Be an awesome time. We're both, I think we've sent 2,000 messages back and forth to each other over the last week just about best ball.
Yeah, so, 1,999 of me asking questions and then you just being like, "Yup."
Well, let's dive into it. And if you're not on Underdog yet and you want to get a free month of The Sims, I think that's the best way to do it. Just click the link in the description where it says join any sportsbook, gets Stokastic Sims free. The pick'em sites are included. If you're not on Underdog, you're getting a 50% match deposit bonus up to $250, which is huge. So you put $250 in, now you have $375, or just take 50% of whatever you put in. And after that first, say pick'em or even draft, it could be a draft, it doesn't matter, is settled, send us a screenshot of the settled bet to support@stokastic.com and send us your welcome email, and you're in, and you can join along with us and get a free month of core. Of course, as many of these as you sign up on just by clicking claim offer and following those 4 steps, you get as many free months of core as you want with the Sims. So say you wanted PGA, you wanted to close out, at this point, yeah, you'd get the entire NFL postseason, NBA, MMA, whatever it may be. Jump down there, jump in, and check them out. All right, so let's go. Lee Price, last thing. Lee Price said, wish I could get into it, too time consuming for me. Playoff best ball is not.
That's something that again, I can only speak for me. How many years in a row have I said that? The playoff stuff's pretty quick. Like I've been knocking out drafts.
15 minutes.
Yeah, it's not, and it's a confined player pool. So like, I'm up to date on these teams just because of DFS and betting. So like there's not a lot to know.
That's a good point. With the regular season, you got to really dig in.
It's like, the 3rd string quarterback. Like this is, it's like, all right, I know the quarterbacks. I know the teams. There's only 14 of them left.
All right, let's make it happen. So here's what we're going to do, guys. Some of you will like this. Some of you may not. All of you should, at the very least, understand it. There's nothing worse than trying to split up 2 slates in one show. The flow is bad. I've done it a million times. You get through the first slate, you're like, oh, shit, we only have 20 minutes left to talk about the second one. It's difficult. So here's what we're going to do. There's actually some really big prize pools out there, Ben, for the full. And somebody like myself, given my results on these short slates, although I did have a nice win on Christmas that made up for all of it. But no, dude, I got almost blanked last Saturday on that 2-game slate. I'm just saying, historically, I know. My 2-game performance has been lacking. But besides that, not for selfish reasons, but to make this show flow better. And since we're going position by position, let's cover the Saturday through Monday. Because I anticipate playing a lot of that this week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's always going to be like nuance to the individual slate and when you have less quarterbacks, but I think that is, honestly, we talked about this a little before the show, the best way to do it, just because there's too many slates if we go the other way. And this way, at least we can kind of give a scope of how we look at the quarterbacks. And then you can, I think, apply that easier to the smaller slates. So yeah, Chad agrees. That's what we're doing.
Another thing, tomorrow on the single lineup sim, Greg and I will build Saturday and Sunday. We can build all of them. On Friday's show, we'll run the sims for Saturday and Sunday and the main I won't even call it the main, but the, full 6-gamer. So we'll make all of that happen. No big deal at all. And let's get into it. Happy to have you guys with us. If you don't mind, take a single second, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It is free. Both of them, believe it or not. Totally free to do so if you haven't yet. Thanks to all you guys that support us throughout the year for sure. And leave a comment down below. Oh, it looks like, yeah, a lot of people are okay with that as well, Ben. You're right.
Yeah. No, this is good.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, you know what the first thing, we'll go position by position like we always do on First Look. I was surprised Hurts was the fourth. I thought Hurts would be at least in a similar ballpark as Jackson.
I'm sorry do you want to do a goblin? It's on the left. I don't know if you want to.
Oh, okay. Why not? Do you have one? Gerard Mayo for winning that game and subsequently getting fired. You have to win the game if you're the head coach, though. I'll never.
Yeah, I don't blame. I mean, normally I would say the Bucks for throwing, but honestly, you know what? I'm gonna do this. It's a small goblin. It's not a huge deal. I know you were gonna agree with this because you said what I was thinking on Twitter. This is a small little thing, but you're the Saints,
Mike Evans.
right? What'd you say?
Mike Evans. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The game's over. Tampa's not going to kneel it. They line up to throw. So obviously, anyone in the world knows there's only one thing that they could do. They're trying to get Evans his really cool record. I'm not just saying this. Why seriously would you cover anyone? Like if they're going to just throw a touchdown to Jalen McMillan for no reason, you just let them do that. You should have taken all 11 guys and literally just guarded Mike Evans and said, we're not going to let him get that record because that's all we can cling to right now.
That was exactly my tweet.
I know, but I'm not even exaggerating. Like I would have.
I'm agreeing. I would have taken all 11 and stuck him on Mike Evans.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even see that he was on the field.
Yeah. Just no, he's not catching it. Like,
well, because I understand he wanted to get the milestone, but it's also a divisional spot. You're losing by a lot of points, and now you want to give him more. There's one side of gamesmanship where you could say, like sportsmanship, let him get his 1,000. You know what I mean? But then on the other hand, I'm thinking, hey, this is a big fuck you. So
no, yeah, you're rivals in the South. Absolutely not.
And you're throwing the football up multiple scores.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, if you want to do that, I'm just gonna yeah, I just thought that was kind of comical. Like, what are you doing? The Falcons, they deserve it. Typical Falcons. Not that it would have mattered, but
I have one.
Go ahead.
Everybody on Sunday in the deeper dive who was adamantly referring to you and myself as, let's just say it, morons.
I almost go ahead, please.
If any, and by the way, I didn't get a single DM. I didn't get a single tweet. Shocking. When Mike Evans hit that. You know why? Because, and by the way, I liked Mike Evans, but at 8K, him getting to 89 yards or whatever it was didn't mean shit in the end. And do you want to know why maybe that happened? Possibly because they were actually locked into a competitive game. And maybe that takes priority over the record. Yeah, they got it for him at the end, didn't they? But it meant nothing from a DFS perspective. From a betting perspective, every single person who bet the over on Mike Evans, no matter whether you got it at 92.5 or upwards of 106, you all lost. You all lost.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to say. That the points were just over a lot of people. We also have, again, it's like most things. 9 out of 10 of our people in chat, the best in the business, totally understood what we were trying to say.
Most of them do.
That's what I mean.
No, everyone in First Look show does. When you get to deeper dive, you get goblin.
Oh yeah, you get people. You get some real characters.
And you think about it. If their response is like, yeah, but what about Cortland Sutton? Yeah, they won, 100-0 against the back of, Cortland Sutton was a good play. So was Mike Evans. But
so was Mike Evans. That's the whole point. Yes.
It had nothing to do with the incentives.
Yep, that'll be a nuanced
I got to
point.
put a bow on it. I'm sorry, because how many
Please.
comments did we have on Sunday?
Again, yeah, like I said, I'm sure this is like I said, they're probably at brunch with the moron that told me Blake Corum, who couldn't even Ronnie Rivers has passed him now, even though he was banged up. I don't want to hear that guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, he did break his forearm, but
I
still.
don't care what he broke. There was no Kyron Williams is the guy, was the
Oh my
guy.
God.
And
Oh, that guy. Yeah, of
that
course.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy. All right, let's get into it.
Wait,
We already did.
yeah, it's Eberflus.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus. Although I think there are some good runner-up candidates, but
Yeah, I mean, Antonio Pierce, like I said, he is, I am sure, waiting with bated breath to find out not if he's fired, but if he can interview for the head coaching job if the head coach gets fired. Because I'm still convinced that he doesn't understand that he is, in fact, the head coach and he is going to wait and then try to swoop in and take that job. But yeah, it's Eberflus.
Jordan, can we timestamp these once they post? Timestamp it to now once we get to quarterbacks, okay? Thanks. All right, let's do it. So Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol.
He's going to clear, though, right?
I mean, I see it two ways. Also, if you look on DraftKings, they don't have the Q next to his name. Interesting. Doesn't matter. But if he, two things. One, this happened in week 16. So he would be 3 full weeks removed from a concussion. I know we've seen instances with guys like Cedric Tillman and such being held out a longer period of time due to concussions, but Hurts hasn't suffered many concussions that we know of. Also, Ben, I don't know about you. I don't think the league, you know, I had people could call it a conspiracy theory, call it whatever you want, but I was right. I'm wrong about a lot, but this one, man, I was dialed in, and it was, you could see it from a mile away. The COVID year, right, where nobody was allowed in the stands and everyone's getting ruled out left and right with COVID. I said, I'll bet you that not a single notable player gets ruled out due to COVID in the postseason. You know how many did? 0. Nobody of worth, nobody of note. Why? Because the league's trying to make money. Does it mean no one had COVID in January of 2021? Obviously not. It means they probably just stopped testing. So if there's a way to get Jalen Hurts to clear a concussion protocol so you can have a matchup instead of Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis of Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love, I think they're going to do what they can to make that happen.
Actually, normally I don't agree with whatever just garbage you spew in the conspiracy theory world, but I do agree with that. I mean, and he's got, again, do I know? Maybe he unfortunately has like a bad concussion and he can't clear. That would be unfortunate on a lot of levels. I'm pretty damn sure that he will be on that field. And I'm pretty damn sure that Jordan Love will be on that field as well. Of the injuries, I know we do that kind of occasionally. Correct me if I'm wrong. To me, obviously Christian Watson's done. Zay Flowers, and that's about it to me. Montgomery, but they're on a bye. Like, there's not that many guys that I really think are in danger of missing.
Right. So there's not a lot. Mitch said that's a wild take by us because he has a concussion. If you think the NFL cares more about anything than revenue.
I mean, I just think with a concussion, this isn't like he got a concussion on
Of course,
Sunday.
it's going to be 3 weeks.
Yeah, you would think he would be able to clear.
Yeah. And I think they're going to try and do what they can to. If the guy's still wobbling around and seeing stars, sure. But you're right. Not a lot in question. There's the biggest one is Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to play.
I don't think so either. I don't. I know they're calling him day to day, but not like they're saying. This is, I always laugh at this when I see these type of these reports. He avoided a season-ending injury and is considered day to day.
Be day to day for like 3 months.
He avoided a season-ending injury. So like there was fear that this could be a season-ending injury, but he could be back at practice tomorrow. Seems unlikely. If I had to make projections right now, I would have Zay Flowers out.
I would too.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess yeah, there's not a ton. Like Amari's going to be back for sure. That game was meaningless anyway. Watson's done. I expect Josh Palmer to be back. You would think. Man, you're not wrong. There's not a lot. Kate Otten. You're not wrong. There's really not that much, which makes me feel a little bit more comfortable doing this Saturday through Monday slate too.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, again, the Jalen Hurts news will be telling, but I like you think one way or another he will be on that field. It would be pretty alarming if he's not, because then like what's another week gonna do? Like, is he just out for the year then?
Right.
That seems unrealistic, but who knows?
Mitch Farrell, how is the comparison wild? Wasn't COVID the end of the world? What are we talking about?
See, here we go. Here we go. I was with you too.
What do you mean? What are you talking?
No, I agreed with that at the
time. No, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is that COVID wasn't a big deal in 2020, 2021. We're saying like a concussion takes precedent over COVID-19 that shut the country down for months. Come on.
I don't remember this. The only distinction, and I could be wrong, the concussion thing, they have supposedly neutral, independent people. With the COVID stuff, I thought that was all like league mandated, so they were just like, we're not going to test. But
yeah,
I could be wrong.
I guess, but it's still whatever. Let's assume Hurts is going to play. Sorry, guys.
Yes,
my fault. Sometimes I get a little fired up here.
Believe me, I've been fired up all morning.
That's all right. At the top, Josh Allen against Denver. That's a tricky spot to me. Like, I think they still come in and win handily, but it's still a bit of a tricky spot. Maybe this is just Josh Allen runs for 100 in this game.
I said this on Sunday, and I was proven right, and I didn't even make any money from it, so let's not victory lap me. I said if there was a team that needed to win that wouldn't, it would be the Falcons. And they were dispatched by Carolina. If there's one call. What?
I said good call.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't do anything for me, so what good does that do? But I'm going to go with another hot take right off the bat. I think the Bills could lose. I'm a little worried about them in this spot.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, again, if the Bills roll, I'm not like, of the big spreads though, I think this game is a lot more tenuous than say Pittsburgh going into Baltimore.
So then the play here would not be to take the Broncos on the spread. It would be to sprinkle the money line.
I'm more apt to do that because I think that
it could be a blowout in the other direction
where the Bills at home should handle business. I think the Bills might be the best team. I'm certainly rooting for them. But I'm a little freaked out by this Denver team.
Can you tell me what it is specific? It'd probably be helpful for everybody watching too. Like what your thoughts here.
Honestly, I just think that Denver, a lot of, and I know it's unquantifiable, but I do believe there is something to kind of getting it together at the right time. They are a young team. I don't like Sean Payton as a person, but he knows what he's doing. Knicks has been outstanding. They seem to have integrated Mims in a better way each week. And honestly, Buffalo, I'm a big Buffalo fan, but how many times has Buffalo been at home in the playoffs against inferior competition and not just lost, but struggled? It's been greasy. Like, I'm not convinced that Denver isn't working with some things that could cause some problems.
Okay. Look, they're a good defense, but they're also a young defense on the road in the postseason for the first time. And I don't think that can be understated, right? Like, they might come out and surprise, or they just come out and I know you're saying this, but I could see them getting flattened as well. Like, rookie quarterback, a lot of young rookies on the defense who have overperformed this year, right? But like, there's a lot of young guys on that defense, like a lot of young guys who have no postseason. I mean, how much postseason experience does this team have in general? So that to me is the needle mover in the end.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Like that's why they're the rightful almost double digit underdog. I just think that they have some weird things. And honestly, this was just me, if I was Buffalo, I'd want to play a team with some experience. Like this team is just an unknown. This team's just an unknown. I don't know what Bo Nix is going to do. He might not be ready for the moment. They might get smoked. But there's just a lot of pieces of this puzzle. And I think, to start to tie it in, I have some interest in Bo Nix this week because I think the range of outcomes is enormous and he can run.
Okay. I could see that with Nix. I still think, though, I don't know why Baker Mayfield's still under 7K, quite frankly. Why is Baker Mayfield priced so much cheaper than everyone else? This is not hyperbole. Baker Mayfield, from a fantasy perspective, has been easily one of the best in the league this year. Easily.
He's been, look at I don't really use this as a barometer, but he's up there with the elite quarterbacks in terms of fantasy points per game. Like the best of the best.
Like, look at DraftKings scoring point per game. Baker Mayfield is third in football this year, behind Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Another thing, do you know Baker Mayfield has almost 400 rushing yards? I'm not saying that's anything crazy, but he has 378. Josh Allen has 531. Josh Allen's thrown for 3,700 yards. Baker Mayfield's thrown for 4,500, 41 passing touchdowns, 28 for Josh Allen. The clear, and you know this, I'm not telling anyone anything they don't already know. Obviously, the differentiator there is Josh Allen's rushing touchdown upside, where he has 12 to Mayfield's 3. But Baker Mayfield, man, across the board, even with his ability to run a little bit in what I think is one of the better matchups of the postseason, 6,800. I will just keep going back to the well there in a home game against another very young Washington team. How could I not? I just love it.
I get it. Yeah, I think that's going to be the most popular game. I think it should be healthy total. Washington's defense, I've been harping on it all year. I don't think they're that good. And Tampa's in a nice spot. They got a nice draw. They should win this game. They really should. And yeah, Baker's going to be again, we don't have that many quarterbacks, but he'll be the quote unquote pay down option. I think most people will look to. If you had to choose, because to me, this is the other question we didn't tackle yet. You have the money. You have 8,000. You have 8,200. Lamar or Allen?
This Baltimore-Pittsburgh spot, like Pittsburgh, I've said it a lot, but if you look at the matchups they've had over that 4-game losing streak to close out the season, it was Philly, then it was Baltimore, then it was Kansas City, then it was Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is a really tough matchup over the second half of the year, right? Just hands down. Or the last quarter of the year. Really, that's a gauntlet. I still think Pittsburgh's defense is good. I would still go Josh Allen. I know Denver's defense is good. You're playing the unknown there differently than I am. I actually like Josh Allen more here, and I'll play to something you always say. In big spots, you know where I'm going with this. I think Josh Allen just runs the ball a lot more than he normally does.
Yep. I'm on, and honestly, I don't disagree with that. I think Lamar does too. So both of them are going to be more than keen to pull it a couple extra times. So I would also, I know like you're going to be like, wait, what? I would also go Josh Allen, just to be entirely honest, just because to me, ironically, I think he might be a little more needed. I'm not saying that Baltimore just steamrolls with no opposition, but I think late in that game, it's going to be a Derrick Henry show. And it's going to be Baltimore controlling the clock and grinding it away. Whereas I'm not sure what Buffalo is going to be doing. Josh Allen's been unbelievable all year, weather permitting, certainly. But I would roll with Allen if I had the money.
What about Jaden Daniels or Hurts? I think I know where you're going to go here, but
I would go to Hurts.
Yeah, so would I. And another reason I would go to Hurts here, because we saw against against Pittsburgh, a good defense, a good secondary. When they were taking all that heat, like, they can't throw the football. They came out and threw the football. I think you could see an Eagles offense, assuming Hurts is good to go, that if they're firing on all cylinders, there's no tricks left in the bag, right? There's no punches pulled where you really open things up. And this isn't to say that they haven't on the season, but in a lot of games, truthfully, they haven't needed to. He threw 21 times against Carolina, 19 against Baltimore, 22 against the Rams. They routed them, right? 28 against Washington. Go down the list. 20 against Dallas, 24 against Jacksonville, 20 the game before that against Cincinnati. They've had the lead. Saquon Barkley's done a lot. He can do that again. But if they have to open it up, Jalen Hurts is capable of doing that, and he's got the wheels. So for me, if we're breaking down tiers, it's Allen, and then the next tier would be Hurts. And then it's Baker Mayfield for me. But this is where it gets interesting, because I think Darnold coming off a bad game is very much in play. You like Knicks a little bit more than I do, only because I'd rather go to Justin Herbert against Houston. And I think Matthew Stafford's viable. Say what you want about Sean McVay, but I think this offense is going to come out and put some points on the board as well. So, yeah, I looked down. I don't really want much Russell Wilson here. CJ Stroud, I mean, that's been tough. But Stafford, Herbert, Darnold, and Mayfield, all in that range to me looked pretty good.
Definitely pay down options. Guys, I'll go the other way, kind of what you just said. I'm not going to say no interest because you could play anyone, but Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, Darnold are the guys that I'm least interested in for their price points.
Agreed.
I like Stroud a little more than you do.
Oh, you said Darnold is one that you're least interested in.
Yeah. Just because he's a little more expensive. Like, he's only $300 cheaper than Baker, and he's $200 more expensive than Knicks and $500 more expensive than Herbert. I like all three of them more than Darnold.
The Jordan Love injury, they're kind of keeping mum on that. You had Matt LaFleur saying he thinks he's going to be all right, but that's something to really monitor throughout the week. He's had numbness in his throwing hand.
I think he's all right.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that, and I could be wrong, and chat, I'm sure plenty of you saw this, Jordan Love was going to come back in that game, I think. When they
he wanted to, yeah.
I just feel like if it was something like clearly dangerous, they wouldn't have even pursued him going back in that game.
I could see that being the case.
I think the one dark horse for me is Stroud. I know he's been awful. You were all over. Shout out to you. I texted you. You made me some money with Texans first half. They looked crisp. It was one drive. It was one drive, but they looked like the Texans that we thought would be a dangerous team. He's got Nico. He's got cheap pairings. They've got Mixon. I'm not saying the Chargers defense is good, but I think that Houston will play well in that game.
I could see it too. I could see that too. I actually think it's going to be a very good game, though.
Yeah.
I don't expect Jim Harbaugh's squad to just lay down either.
No, definitely not. I think most people think that the Chargers have like the easiest road, and I'm not sure I agree.
Well, I don't like to use that type of terminology, but it's an easier road than going to Baltimore.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying Houston, if Houston wins this game, it's not a cataclysmic upset at all.
No, honestly, I was a little bit surprised that the Texans were 3.5-point dogs. Now they're down to 2.5 in some spots. I thought that should honestly, I would have put that closer to a pick 'em.
So would I. I might bet Houston, as you can tell.
Grab them now while the threes are still out there at just a standard -110, because that's going to move. I'm pretty sure you'll probably have to pay a little extra for three, but yeah.
Buffalo. I don't know about that, my friend.
What do you say?
He said Buffalo has the easiest road and had the easiest season. Buffalo's got to me a bad road, to be honest. They have Denver, which I think is tricky, and then they probably have Baltimore.
Let's see. Would it be Baltimore?
Yeah. And then it's probably Kansas City. That's tough.
Who's the Pittsburgh's the 6th seed, right?
Yeah.
So then Chiefs are likely facing, you're saying one of Chargers or Texans.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's tough.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough. But I think you'd still rather play. Actually, no. If you're the Bills, yeah, I'd probably rather play the Chargers or the Texans in the first round.
I would. I definitely would.
Any other quarterback? Let me rank them too. Let's do our tiers. Do tiers. For me, it's Allen at 1. I'll say Hurts is the second tier. And then I'll do Mayfield 3, but if you really wanted to drop it down, you could go Herbert. I don't even disagree with you on Stroud because that Chargers defense has been suspect lately. But I'll go Herbert there so you can go Stroud or Nix.
Yeah, I'll mirror you in the first two, Allen, Hurts, and then I'm gonna go with Stroud. I think if you're looking for a real cheapie, it's just a different type of build. Obviously, you know what you're getting in terms of the wild range of outcomes, but we just talked about this. You you have to take some shots. And I think I'm gonna have some Texan stacks, there's no doubt.
Oh, yeah, I could see it. Plus, it's kind of an easy stack. Like Nico
Super
just gets
easy.
plugged in immediately.
Yeah, and then you can go Schultz, you could go Mixon, you could go cheap wide receiver. You've got Lad on the bring back if you want him. Like, it's not
Did you
bad.
see Robert Woods kill the ball carrier on it was a fumble, I think, and he scooped the fumble up. And I
No.
believe it was number 2, Robert Woods. I saw 2. I didn't see the name, but I saw him came in and absolutely kamikazed this guy. Some of you in chat had to have seen it. He flattened him last week against Tennessee. Just crushed this guy. It was a beautiful, especially for, an offensive player turned defense, really a beautiful thing. All right, let's talk running backs here. So Barkley, Henry, Jacobs, Kyron, Mixon, and Irving are all 7K plus. I'd go right back to the well with Bucky Irving again. I mean, this guy has clearly solidified himself as the number one. I'll take the victory lap there, Ben. How about that?
Bucky's
I've
the
been
player.
I've
He's
been
the man.
opposed to Rashad White forever now, and Bucky Irving's this guy. Regardless, he's pretty good, and they really like him. I mean, they really like him. Largest discrepancy in snaps on the season was week 18. Irving played 72% snaps. White played 27. He's a great play. Barkley, if you want to pay there. Henry against Pittsburgh, still a tough spot. It's a tough spot for a guy that's not going to see a ton of work in the passing game. What are you doing when you're talking pay up options at running back? Because Jacobs doesn't have the easiest path either. I kind of like guys like Kyron, Mixon, and Bucky.
Kyron's my guy. I mean, listen, if you have the money and you can go get
Barkley.
Saquon, just go ahead. He's great. Obviously. I think Kyron Williams, if you told me touches for all the running backs and I had to bet on who has the most volume, I think that Kyron might end up at the top of that list. I could legitimately see him having like 35 touches in this game. He's obviously going to consolidate all of it. If they're trailing, and that's definitely possible, he can catch the ball. Not saying they won't sprinkle in Ronnie Rivers, but I don't think he has any sort of meaningful role. I love Kyron. They feed, anytime they get to the goal line, they just give him the ball. He's going to be really busy. He is a guy, even in a tough matchup. I think just on sheer volume, he gets there.
I think so too. I like him, but I think Bucky's a volume guy now too. Like I think Bucky Irving is a legitimate volume guy. I don't expect to see a ton of Sean Tucker. You're talking. Listen to the last 2 games for Bucky Irving. 24 looks, so 19 attempts and 5 targets, and then 20 carries against Carolina and 4 targets. That's 25 and 24 for a 7K guy as a home favorite in now. I think Bucky Irving will be popular, no doubt, but how this guy ended up with 1,100 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns in the regular season on 200 attempts. You realize like he averaged 5.5 yards per attempt this season. Fella's got a little Jamal Charles in him, Ben. But I like him. I like it. And you mentioned Houston. You mentioned Stroud. The one that stands out to me is Mixon. Like, I think Mixon is going to be written off in large part. People look at what he's done recently, not good. They've really struggled in a lot of these spots. They haven't blocked particularly well either. I'm not going to ignore that. But why would you not want to do everything you could? Plus, I like the Chargers. I like the way they're coached. I'm a big Justin Herbert fan, but this is not a prolific LA Chargers offense either. It simply isn't. And they don't have a very good run game. They don't have quality run blocking either. I could see this legitimately being like a 25 carry game for Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I do too. I have no problem with that. I want to see how ownership breaks down. To me, the slight, and I'm splitting hairs, I think that Kyron's in a slightly better opportunity and will have slightly better volume. Mixon, he should be really busy as well. And again, I'm a little more bullish on Houston than most, so it's fine. But if I was between the two, I would go Kyron. And then he's in a weird sandwich spot. Maybe he gets lost because I like Bucky as well. You said a lot of stuff that's extremely valid, and Mixon is in the middle of those two.
Right in the middle.
Sandwich spot.
Man, Derrick Henry to me, this is always scary, and it happens all the time. But at 8,200, he feels like the odd man out because I'd lean Barkley, and then Kyron, Mixon, and Irving at their deep, $1,000 discounts.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, and Derrick Henry, it's like, and you're not wrong. It's like, oh man, Pittsburgh, brutal matchup. Well, he played them just a couple weeks ago, and he had 162 yards rushing. Like the guy is a tank.
But he also still only had 23 fantasy points.
I mean, it's been the story with Derrick Henry for years, which is you are saying he's got to score twice.
Twice. Yeah. Because 162 plus a touchdown, it's 25. Not bad when you get the bonus, right? Like it's not bad. But you're talking about some damn good players here. And 160, he didn't even score in that game.
No.
Right?
Nope.
But he had 27 yards receiving. He has done a little bit more there. So sure, he scores once there. It's a 30 fantasy point game. You'll take that all day long.
Oh, of course. But let's be real, obviously. The chances that he runs for 160 yards in any game is low. That is not a normal line.
And it's still a divisional spot. It's still a good defense. Like he faced Pittsburgh earlier this year, had 13 for 65. So somewhere in the middle, 120 and a score, not bad, but anyway, Barkley's actually kind of similar to that, is he not? It's just an easier matchup. Barkley needs to, you know what the difference there though is? They actually, even though Barkley's not used a ton in the passing game, they're going to give Gainwell like maybe 3 or 4 plays in this, and that's it. Justice Hill is still a thing in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, and they're both elite running backs with home run speed and everything. Derrick Henry, just when he gets in the open field, possible to bring down. But for me, I'll just get to my tiers right now. It'll be Saquon 1, Kyron Williams 2. We didn't really talk about the pay down backs. I'll say this. I don't want to pay down at running back. I think it's a good time to spend up. Maybe Dobbins? I really don't like these backs.
Yeah, I don't love it either. And I should have prefaced the Henry thing with this. Justice Hill's been out a couple games with a concussion. If he's still out, Derrick Henry looks really good. His snap count increased dramatically, and I think it would only increase more in the postseason because they're not going to want to give Keaton Mitchell 25% of the snaps. I don't think they will. A young player who missed most of the season. I would say Henry actually, to me, takes a big step forward, and I'd put him right in the same neighborhood as Barkley, maybe even ahead of him if Justice Hill sits. But I think Hill's going to play. To your point again about these running backs in the mid or in the lower tier, it's Aaron Jones isn't a crazy play there. It's hard to get excited about either Pittsburgh back, like a committee approach against Baltimore in Baltimore. Brian Robinson has an uphill battle against the stout run defense for Tampa. Man, you're right. There is not a lot here at all.
No, and a guy like Jalen Warren, I totally get that. But what the hell were they doing last week? It
I
was a
don't know.
game where I was like, okay, they're trailing throughout. Jalen Warren had a whopping 0 catches on 1 target.
Crazy.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think the answer is probably Aaron Jones.
I'm gonna go Dobbins just by default. But I genuinely don't think I'm going to dip sub 6 unless I'm really, really starved for salary.
All right, so do your tiers quickly again, because I was looking something up on Justice Hill.
I'm gonna go Saquon 1, Kyron 2, and then J.K. Dobbins 3.
All right, I'll go Saquon, of course, with the assumption that Justice Hill is back. I think I really would be Derrick Henry if Justice Hill was out. Then I'll go Bucky, but the dark horse here is truly Joe Mixon, in my opinion, in that range.
I think Mixon and James Cook are the 2 that are being a little slept on.
Yeah, that's fair. Mixon being bookended by Kyron and Irving to me is very fascinating to see how ownership plays out. Yeah, okay. And then low tier, I'll just go I'll go Aaron Jones, but I'm with you. I don't love anything there. Before we move to wide receiver quickly, what are your thoughts on James Cook in this game? He's such an odd player to evaluate.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really tricky. I think that his biggest utility is that he probably, if he has a huge game, he kills Josh Allen. So that's really where it gets interesting. I just worry that I've been a big proponent of this in general. In the playoffs, with Josh Allen and Lamar in particular, Mahomes is another one. Like, they just tend to take it on themselves a little more. And Josh Allen was already doing that. So you're talking about red zone threat where you're how does James Cook really get there? I mean, they score so much, maybe they can coexist, but I just worry that his touchdown equity really gets hampered even more by Josh Allen.
But does his volume increase in the postseason?
I don't think so.
No?
I mean, again, is it going to increase from some of these games where, like, I expect him to have maybe like 15 carries.
Man, I don't know. I'm looking at last year. He had 18 carries in both playoff games with 9 total targets. So if we're talking looks here, 23 and 22. Pretty good. That's pretty good for James Cook.
And I don't know.
What I'm saying is I anticipate seeing an uptick in opportunities here.
I'll be really interested to see, and again, I really don't know the answer to this. Do you think that he's the pass catching back as well? Or
Yes.
like, because I feel pretty good about these other running backs for Buffalo. They're good players.
Could it be Ty Johnson? I think Ty Johnson will have a role for sure. But I also think that you're just going to see James Cook out there more. Yeah. But I'd still put him below the other guys because of that uncertainty. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing.
I am. It's an uncertainty, but again, he kills Josh Allen if he has 3 touchdowns. So there's like a double whammy leverage there. I don't think it's a priority. It's certainly not a priority for me right now, though.
He's also pretty damn skilled at scoring from outside of the red zone as well.
He's a player. I'm a big James Cook fan. Like, he is an X factor. I totally agree. I just worry there's a lot of things that need to go right, and then on top of it, he of course has to play well. I think Ty Johnson has a bigger role than most people think he has.
Well, how about this? Last year in 2 playoff games, he was only targeted 3 times, but he saw 15 carries, 8 and 7.
Ty Johnson?
Ty Johnson.
That's
because
surprising.
he was on the Bills last year. Yeah. Interesting. This is actually a pretty fun slate, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great slate.
Would you full punt any running backs?
I'd say that's not the ideal move. If I did, I think it would be McLaughlin, because the Broncos just do weird stuff, and I don't think there's a lot of rhyme or reason. And that guy's pretty explosive.
Talk wide receivers. Yeah, McLaughlin, just because that that backfield is,
It's a joke.
I mean, I have no clue what to make of that backfield, especially going into the postseason at all. But Jaleel McLaughlin played a team high 41% of snaps last game. Javante's just on his way out at this point. They're clearly not a fan. Even Estime essentially matched him in snaps last week. So there's that. Wide receiver. Okay. This is where it gets very fun. Mike Evans against Washington in a playoff game. I simply don't know how you couldn't love Mike Evans this week. Well, actually, I do know how. There's no incentives on the line. So
He already got his money. Is he
Yeah.
even going to play?
That's
Like,
a good question. And if he does he even give a shit? Yeah.
He'd be waiting for next year.
Yeah.
Week
He's just going
18.
to dog every route, not try. So don't play Mike Evans. No, really though, play Mike Evans. Nico, I know you're a Nico fan this week. I already know because I've seen a lot of your best ball lineups.
That's true.
Am I wrong though? I think Nico looks great this week.
I mean, I've been a Nico fan all year. He was on the I genuinely believe he was on the verge of a Jamar Chase year before he got hurt.
He was.
People forget that he got hurt for a while and then Houston crumbled.
He still had 1,000 yards in 12 games. And some of those games, the offensive line was so bad. Oh, actually, 11 and actually, no, not even 12 games, right? Because he only played the first quarter in week 5 and he only played the first quarter yesterday. So really it's like 10 and a half games, right?
He would have had a monster season.
Definitely. This is where I'm going to have a tough time. Puka Nacua. I know Minnesota's defense is good. They're opportunistic. They blitz heavy. They do a lot of great things, but I like Puka Nacua here. I even like AJ Brown. Again, like AJ Brown in this type of spot. The guy is such a monster after the catch. And, you know, he's another guy, played 13 games on a massive run first team, still had 1,100 yards, and now they're going into the postseason. Dude, Lad McConkey. This is, I didn't even mention Justin Jefferson. It's stacked up top. If you, again, closed your eyes and you had to choose one of these guys between like 75 and 8,100, there isn't a single player I'd be unhappy getting to.
Craziest thing about that is that whoever you picked last, I honestly could make an argument that they could be first.
Yep. If I was like, give me Nico last or give me AJ Brown last, Jefferson, Puka Nacua.
Crazy. It's absolutely dealer's choice. I like Nico Collins. He's a great attachment to Stroud. He's a great one-off because realistically, he's going to have an insane target share. They could be trailing. Ownership is going to have to play a factor for me here. I'm going to run the Sims as I always do, and I'm going to see what I get because I can't really say, okay, this guy should be behind this guy. Projections wise, I think these guys are all going to grade out very similar.
Oh man, the whole Jefferson thing. Sam Darnold I really believe that game goes totally different if Darnold isn't so bad at the goal to go situations. I'm not saying just because I liked Minnesota, which I did. Shout out to you. You were on the Detroit side of that. But I did text you at one point. You realize they had 3, not red zone, 3 goal line series, not 3 goal line plays, 3 goal line trips in the first like 20 minutes of that game. And it ended up being 6 total points.
You know, I think there's a reasonable question to ask about Darnold here. Not, he's shown he can do it, but I don't think it's impossible that he doesn't play well either. I'm interested, though, it's the playoffs, and Addison has had a really good year. I do think that there's a decent, I don't know what the word is, where Jefferson reassumes dominant target share, and it's not like 9 and 6, it's like 15 and 5 in terms of the breakdown.
I could 100% see that. And you know when else that happens? When a quarterback is struggling, what's the go-to move?
I honestly think I try not to read too much into the previous game in general. The way that happened, and they got crushed in a bit. It's like, all right, it's almost like a back to basics mentality. It's just like we need to get this guy the ball at all costs, and I have a feeling Jefferson is going to be even busier than he would have been, which would have been busy to begin with.
Really is bizarre though how many times he has struggled to find Jefferson in the end zone. But you got to go back to the well. We could rank these fine. I'll go Jefferson here as our top. But you're going Nico. But if I told you Evans or Nakua or Brown, you wouldn't bat an eye.
No, I mean, honestly, not. I honestly think you could put Ladd in that conversation too. I know he's $700 cheaper, but he's in a great spot as well.
I'm just bringing Ladd down to the next tier here. That's
yeah, that's fair.
Ladd's awesome.
Yes, he is.
This guy's awesome, and
he's always hurt.
Yeah, he's been banged up a lot, but he's played most of the games, right? I think he only missed one game.
No, I know. It's just, again, from college, he was always like questionable. He's a great player. He always seems to be banged up.
It's true. Yeah. You know what else is crazy? The Patriots. Look who they drafted over Ladd. I know hindsight's 2020 and all that good stuff.
Like, I don't even know what draft we're talking about.
I'm talking about this draft.
No, I know, but I don't know who did the Patriots take over.
So the Patriots, what pick did they have? I'm trying to remember.
Well, they obviously had multiple picks.
No, I know. Oh wait, no, maybe for some reason I thought Ladd went pick 34, Jalen Polk went pick 37.
Huh. Maybe they traded out of it?
I don't know. I saw a bunch of comments on it earlier.
I forgot about Polk. I forgot all about him.
I saw a bunch of comments on it earlier in the week when they were talking about firing Gerard Mayo. Maybe they traded out of it.
Whatever. They got the quarterback right. That's all that matters. So
I agree. All right.
Yeah, they traded out of 34.
They did. Okay. There you go. McConkey would be my guy in the mid-range, but I think Terry's fine here too. I actually like McLaurin in this game. Do you have any interest in guys like Cooper Kupp or George Pickens?
So the mid-range relative to what we just talked about sucks. Like, this is tournament flyers at best. You have guys with no floor. I don't know what to make of George Pickens. He had one reception for no yards.
I really thought he was going to have a big game.
I did too. I also thought multiple times during the game that he was close to doing the Antonio Brown and just being like, I quit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm leaving.
Like boils over. Yeah.
It didn't seem good. And I seriously worry about, like, what happens if Pittsburgh's down, 14-3 with 4 minutes to go in the first quarter or something. It's got to be in this mid-tier, the top two, or if you want to include Devontae Smith, because he's just a good price. He's always in play, explosive player, attachment to Hurts. If I was picking anyone, though, it would be McLaurin.
I love George Pickens, but he is a true head case.
I mean, he's got all the talent, but I don't know how you confidently trust him for anything.
Who'd you say your top guy was?
McLaurin.
Me too. Well, I have to ask you about Sutton, though.
Yeah, I mean, Sutton is just... The thing about Sutton that's a little concerning, and maybe it'll be elevated, the way the Broncos are kind of, like, constructed, it seems like his paths to massive target share are limited. Like, they give Mims some bubble screens. They've got a trio of, like, random tight ends. They've got other receivers. They've got 3 running backs, a couple who can catch the ball. So I like Sutton. I just worry that he sees another, 8 or 9 targets, which is fine. But I don't know how much the ceiling game is there. High floor, low ceiling.
The crazy thing is the same thing can be said about Terry, but I think in a game like this, that changes.
I do too. That's the difference. I think he could see, like, again, he saw 12 targets in the last game.
Exactly. In a must-win spot to get that. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. Give me Terry. Oh, you're going Terry. I'll go Lad. So we can mix
Yeah,
it up
Lad's
a little bit
amazing.
here. Now it's interesting. We get into this range. By the way, Addison's a perfectly good play as well. Just because we said good things about Jefferson doesn't mean Addison's not viable. This guy's really come on strong this year. Last game was abysmal, right? It was bad, but it was bad for most of Minnesota. He can get back there. His target share has increased. But if you're of the mindset that you are, and I'm kind of with you there, that Jefferson sees, kind of reestablishes himself as the clear alpha, the biggest hit goes to Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. Let's assume for now that Zay doesn't play. I mentioned in week 17 that Devonta Smith was a play that was getting slept on a little bit. Huge performance from Devonta there. And the reason I said he's getting slept on is because all season long, we've had to pay high 6, low 7 for Devonta Smith. Now he's at a spot where he actually becomes viable. And at 5,700, he's been in this 5K range for a month now or so. I think Devonta Smith, you can fire on him for sure at 5,700. He's still fantastic. They use him everywhere. He's going to be on the field the entirety of the game. This could end up being a shootout. To me, I look at him. I look at a guy in Jalen McMillan who is, he has to regress in the touchdown department, but they're clearly using him, since the injury to Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan himself getting healthy. He's the clear number 2 receiver. Played 88% of snaps last week, a career and season high. Him and Mike Evans are the 2 guys there. It's really that simple. So, and then Bateman at 5K if Flowers is out, he's going to be chalk without question. But you're gonna be hard pressed to get away from a guy like Bateman if Flowers sits.
That's the guy I'm going to go to. I thought he filled in really nicely. And it's not, this is where we'll see. Baltimore has so many weapons. It's not like, well, he'll get an increase in target share, but the Steelers will just key on him. I don't think that's the case at all. Like, they still have multiple tight ends, Derrick Henry, Lamar. Bateman's going to have good opportunities to make plays. And I actually think he's really, really performed well this year.
He has. And you're right. You're not going to, focus all the attention on Bateman when you have Andrews and Likely and Henry. They have and a running a mobile quarterback, like a prolific mobile quarterback. No way. What about Mims now that he's 5,100? Because to me, this is just one of those spots where I'll take the L if Mims has another big game. But he had the one trick play with Audric Estime involved and stuff. I've been a fan of Mims since he came into the league. But now that he's at this price point, I probably don't end up getting much of him at all.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So, there are pay down options here. I'm going to pick and choose some flyers, probably stack attachments to my quarterbacks.
What about Quentin Johnston? Did you see his game last week?
Yeah, oh, believe me. Me, I'm a big Quentin Johnston guy. I actually think he's a pretty good player.
Are we starting to see the ascension of Quentin Johnston? Now, especially if Josh Palmer sits. I think Johnston and this isn't just based on one game, by the way. If you take that spot against Baltimore in week 12, I think this is probably seared into their minds, where he was 0 for 5. He had 2 really costly drops. They end up losing that game by a touchdown. Then the next week, he's kind of quiet. Since then, 7, 10, 6, 8, and 14 targets. No crazy games, but he's still their leading target getter in the end zone on throws to the end zone. And they just continue to use him more. They're becoming more confident. The connection is developing with him and Justin Herbert. If Palmer sits specifically, I think Johnston at 4,800, and we're going to need value. Looks pretty good.
Again, I think if you play Herbert and just even as a one-off, he's a talented guy. Big target, red zone target. You could do worse than that. Yeah, Zacchaeus down there. There are names.
Can you break this range down for us? See if you can unearth any good value here.
I still think the Packers have too many names, so I don't think that changes enough. Zacchaeus is a guy that I think his floor is okay, but still at 44, you need a game. Like you can't just have like 6 catches for 40 yards. That's just not going to get it done. So for me, Bateman and Johnston are the two guys with some home run upside that I would go to. I would go Bateman as my cheap guy.
There's really nobody else here.
No,
Would
like
you go,
in the depths.
would you go to like someone such as Aguilar if Zay misses? I think he'd be a fine stack attachment if you're going like Lamar +2.
I would rather go to Deontay Johnson
Really?
if Mechie sits. Yeah.
Okay.
If Mechie sits, somebody's gonna have to step up.
Did I didn't see this. Did Johnson play with the starters or did he play with Davis Mills?
I believe it was more the latter,
Okay.
but I don't know what else they can do.
Last question at wide receiver. Are you prioritizing or do you plan on getting to any of these Bills receivers? Because there's a lot of them.
Flyers at best, because there's too many of them. I don't.
Similar to Green Bay, right? Except they have a much higher implied total. Actually, I don't know if it's much higher. What is the implied total here?
Who?
Buffalo 28, Green Bay 20.5. Wow. Wow. Highest on the week is Buffalo and then the Bucks. Ravens after that at 27, basically tied. So all three of those guys are up there for sure. Lowest is the Steelers at 16.5, Broncos at 19.5, Texans at 19.75. All right. Okay. Let's talk tight ends. There are no expensive tight ends on this slate at all. At all. Mark Andrews the highest at 4,700. I think he'll be chalky and rightfully so if Zay sits.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, him and Likely are both really, really solid plays.
And by the way, if you guys ever wanted to, I was like, man, because Sunday slate was whatever for me, but the Saturday slate was bad. Portfolio EV has buoyed all of those DFS losses in the past week. And throughout the season, as you go up and down with DFS, you just have the steady climb upward with Portfolio EV. Yeah, I tweeted that the other day. Those are my December results where you look and you see the first week. If you started at the top and you went down, you're like, oh no, you don't stick with it. Look what happens. You know, you go, well, it doesn't work. Screw this. And then everyone who's stuck with it, who is willing to, you know, kind of absorb some of those hits along the way, then you just see a massive swing upwards. And then you close the month out. And I'm just betting everything from my phone. You guys have heard it a million times. I go in, I hit the mass entry feature for DraftKings, for FanDuel, wherever it may be. We have Hard Rock mass entry now too. If you're in Florida or any of those states, we have ESPN bet mass entry. Takes me less than 30 minutes a day to get 100+ bets every single day. I lay in bed when I wake up. I jam like the 30 on the board. And then I come down here as I'm working. I have it up on the screen. I pull my phone up, bet them all. Just do it throughout the day, getting stuff done. And the results speak for themselves, not just for me, not just for Ben or Greg, but everyone who's used this, who's stuck with it, is seeing returns. I can't say enough good things about it. The link's in the description if you ever want to try it out. Jordan can throw it in the chat. And if you have questions, please hit us up. But a lot of people here just for betting, Ben, or for DFS. But man, these can coexist. And not only coexist, one of them, the bet, can really, really help you along the DFS journey, because DFS is not nearly as much of a steady upward trajectory. It can get ugly at times for even the best of players.
Of course, yeah. And so, like I said, you just showed there, so can betting. The thing that's been super cool is people now sticking with it. And I've been betting for a long time and I'm still guilty of this. You'd be amazed how quickly it can turn. You know, you have a bad week, bad 10 days, and you're like, oh my God. You have a couple like really good days and you're like out of it. And these tools over time really, really do it. And even we just had a question, is Portfolio EV worth it if I live in a state like Texas? So again, it is trickier there because you don't have access to all of those books. But if you do have some of the sweepstakes books or the pick'em site, there's still a lot of value out there. So I would encourage you at the very least to go check it out and see like, oh, I have these sites available to me, and there's still a lot of action. You know, you mentioned Hard Rock for our Florida people. I know it seems like, man, I have one option. You did a video with someone that made
Oh,
5 figures from Hard Rock. I mean,
in 40 days.
that's what I mean. It's just, it's out there. And there are edges and there's going to be ebbs and flows like anything. But if you really buy in and you watch some of those quick tutorials and you use these tools the right way, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to be on the right side of things. And that's all you can ask for.
And I think you'd agree. We're here to help anybody out, get them
Of course.
started off on the right track as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
check it out.
listen, it's never fun. I don't care what you're playing, DFS, betting, or anything. It sucks to be on a cold streak, and they happen. But it's a lot easier for me, and I think for you to take when you can zoom out and you can say, okay, it's such a small dip. It's such a small dip over time. These little cold streaks, and they don't mean as much when you know that your inputs are correct.
I compared it to the market crash in March of 2020 on the onset of COVID.
Twice in the show, very nice.
Yeah, but listen, if you were to go and just like pull the Dow up, it doesn't matter. Pull anything up. Look at that as a small window between like January and April of 2020. It looks like the end of the world. Now zoom out on the 5-year or the 10-year, and it looks like a tiny blip. The difference with that in Portfolio EV is you're not getting any of those cataclysmic black swan events that completely tank a market. You know what I mean? Like you're not having those minus, like your bankroll is down 40%, right? Your portfolio is down 50% overnight. You don't get those. So I use that as a it's a crude example in the sense that it doesn't align perfectly, but it's the same thing when you zoom out and go, weather the storm, baby, and start seeing profits. Check it out if you'd like. I think you guys will love it. All right. Is Mark Andrews the #1 guy up here? Is there any dispute there? Or would you throw like a Zach Ertz into the mix as well?
I mean, certainly Ertz is playable, but no, Andrews is the guy for me.
I like Andrews. I like Ertz. Hawkinson's fine. But man, you know, she's had one good game all year.
I definitely have been a little underwhelmed. I've bet him at times, but the targets have been there. It just really hasn't materialized.
They've been there. You're right. Andrews up top for both of us. I think Kincaid is fine. I don't mind Dallas Goedert at that price point. People are going to overreact to last game when he was the only starter out there. But he's back. He's healthy. That's good to see. How about Dalton Schultz? Because I kind of like a $3,600 Dalton Schultz in this game, especially if you're attaching it to a Stroud stack.
Definitely. I mean, that's clearly something that's going to be of interest to me. And then I think the likely pay down option for most will be likely. No pun intended. But yeah, $3,200 is just a really good price point for him. If Otten sits, Durham again.
You have to at the very least consider him at 3,100. No doubt about it. He's still going to be out there a decent amount. I don't know what to do with Disley and Stone Smart at this point. Like, does Disley go back to being the clear top guy now that he's healthier?
Tough call. I think that's probably fair, but I have more interest in the other paid on options.
Same. I mean, what? Disley's been back for 2. He had 6 targets last game. I kind of like him because I don't mind Herbert. Anybody else here before we get out of here? Any other dirt cheap options? I don't think there are. I think the lowest you probably go would be a Payne Durham there.
Yeah.
Or obviously Isaiah Likely, but
I'm not going into like the 2,900 range now.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more. I think Tyler Higbee has some value there.
Yeah. He's looked good. You know, he came back from major injury and he's looked good.
I know last game doesn't count because everyone else was out, but I think that was just a way to get him ramped up further going into the postseason. So I don't hate him. Anything else before we go, Ben?
No, honestly, like I said, playoffs are a really fun time. A lot of edge out there from betting to DFS, and just take advantage. Season's not over. That's the one thing. We still got a lot of football. So if you've been thinking about joining us for the tools or for OddsShopper Portfolio EV, it's a great time to do it, honestly. There's a lot of action out there. And when you do, make sure you let us know so we can welcome you into Discord.
Yeah, man. Also, you can get that for free as well. Just, you know, you want to do underdog drafts, whatever. Same thing applies with all of those links. Appreciate you guys. Sorry, a bit long today, but we were having fun at the top. Follow Ben at JazzRazBets, me at Laffy_D. Shout out to Jordan for producing, and we'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.